Hey, this is Writers Row. I'm DC Wright-Hammer, and on this episode, we're going to talk Counter.Social, a social media website that a lot of people have been flocking to from Twitter as an alternative. And I'm here to talk about the overall experience I've had being on the site for almost a week. We'll go through all the introductory things and see if it is a good fit for you, and I'll ultimately tell you if I think it's the right place for writers to be going. Before we get to that, if you like the content that I've been putting out on Writers Row, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and if you really want to, hit that notification bell. So Counter.Social is a social media platform that was started in late 2017 by a hacktivist that calls himself The Jester. And it claims to be a site that has no trolls, no abuse, no ads, no fake news, no foreign influence, basically checking all the boxes for people who have been on Twitter, have encountered trolls or people who are abusive, or people who are creeps or things like that. They see ads, they see abuse that happens, and Counter.Social really has swooped in to be an alternative to what you see, especially on Twitter. So it's really easy to open an account like most social media platforms, pretty standard. You need an email address, username, password. They want you to verify your email address, things like that. And that will get you in the door, that'll get you in the gate, and then you can start to build out your profile. Now you'll see you can build out your profile very similar to other social media websites with an avatar, a banner, some information about yourself, links, things that you want to put on your profile. One thing you might notice is that you can look at your public profile, as it's called, but others cannot, because it is a small site and it is looking for funding in different ways, shapes, and form. One of the ways they have secured funding is by putting a somewhat of a paywall in front of the public profile page, meaning you can see it, but others can't unless you pay $5 a month. And then you can link people to your profile page on Counter.Social, just like your Twitter page, or if you're on Facebook, your Facebook page, things like that. This is a little different than that. So once you've set up your account and you're in, it can be quite overwhelming, depending on what you're used to on the Twitter side. And so you'll see you've got a ton of columns. There are streaming banners with news and information about the website. And personally, I think it was overwhelming. I know others who have said it's overwhelming. And so just like any social media site, you need to sort of curate your experience. And so one of the things that I recommend if you feel that it's overwhelming is you can go into your preferences and you can enable ostrich mode. Now, the connotation of ostrich mode is I just want to put my head in the sand and I don't want what the site is offering me. That negative connotation aside, this strips out the like CNN banner or news banner that's at the top, and a few other little things I've noticed. It sort of hides and makes it a little better of an experience. That being said, even if you enable ostrich mode, you also need to consider the columns that you want for your experience. And so do you want to have home? Do you want to have your notifications? Do you want to have the community fire hose? Do you want to follow any particular hashtags? And just realize as you're doing that, especially on desktop anyway, you're going to start to expand horizontally the columns that you see, and it can get quite overwhelming at times. The mobile experience is just one column at a time, so that's much easier to handle. So at least on Android I can speak for. You just have that one column and you can see what's in that one column that you're looking at. And it actually reminds me of TweetDeck, if anybody has used that, where you can manage multiple Twitter accounts and you can manage watching different feeds, different hashtags, different things like that in one place. I think that started off as a third-party provided tool, and I think Twitter ended up buying it. But for those Twitter power users out there, Counter.Social experience is very similar to TweetDeck. So what is engagement like on the site? Very similar to Twitter, almost identical, except you don't have quote tweets, so you're not going to be able to do that exactly, but you can boost a post, and you can do some copying and pasting and things or screenshotting, but it doesn't appear to have true quote tweets. There is no native GIF menu. You can't, and you can't use like the one on your mobile device. I tried that as well. So what you have to do is download a GIF to a GIF file, either on your phone or on a desktop or a laptop, and then upload it like a picture. And for those that know me on Twitter, I have led many GIF wars in my time. So that was kind of a bummer to me. However, I understand it's a different website, so things are going to, they're going to behave a little differently. Otherwise, in terms of engagement, I'm getting roughly the same amount of engagement, for the most part on Counter.Social as I do on Twitter, with one big difference. I have, checks notes, over 300 times the followers on Twitter, and I get a lot of crickets, for better or for worse, admitting that here. I have found that I can get 10 or 12 likes, a couple of boosts if I engage and put something worthwhile out on Counter.Social, and that's kind of what I end up getting on Twitter as well. So is this the place that writers need to be? Well, yes and no. If you're looking for a strictly better Twitter, I don't think this is it. It is a much smaller site, and you get some opportunity to engage. Like I said, my engagement numbers have been fairly similar, but that is, the floor, I think. The ceiling on Twitter is so much higher, where you can have the occasional post get a lot of traction. That happened with me last month when I did a giveaway of my first ebook. I gave that away for free, and it got shared like 300 times. I got like 1,000 downloads, and it just doesn't seem like that would be possible on a site like Counter.Social, although I haven't run any kind of serious promotions on there, so that's just, sort of my speculation. But if you're looking for a different social media experience, this might be a site to try for sure. I haven't found trolls yet, and everyone I have met has been fairly nice and accepting. When you join and you put it out there that you're brand new, you will get sort of swarmed by the community welcoming you, and a lot of people will share a PDF of the sort of ground rules for how to use Counter.Social. There's a lot of informative stuff, much more in depth than what I've covered in this video. And so in that sense, it does feel pretty neat when you jump on and you mention you're there. And it does really seem more content driven. Part of that is because there is a paywall behind profiles, public profiles, as we talked about earlier. But part of it just seems like let's dive into the content and be more concerned with that than the personalities on the website. I think Twitter can be dominated by blue checks. It can be dominated by personalities and follower count. And this seems a little more geared towards, let's just share, ideas. Let's talk back and forth. Let's engage somewhat and go from there. So in the end, Counter.Social is fine. Its mission seems like a good one, to have a social media site that is sort of driven for the people, I guess, if you will. It doesn't really say that. I think the jury's still out if it is accomplishing that, if it will accomplish that, and ultimately how popular it will be. But I think that it's pretty obvious Twitter has changed. I'm going to do a whole separate video just on that, because I'd like to dive into how it's changed in my opinion. I did take a huge break, so I got sort of a control what it was like before I left, 18 months later after I came back. But Counter.Social is fine if you feel like trying something new, if you understand it is somewhat of a simple site and it's very content driven rather than personality driven. You might have a decent experience on there. I know a lot of people are somewhat turned off by the simplistic user experience, and sometimes they get overwhelmed by just that landing page it puts you on. But overall, I think it's worth a try if you understand and if you keep these caveats in mind. And I think you can ultimately find it's a little nice companion social media site that you can check every now and again, interact, and have a good time. So that'll do it for this episode. If you like this and other content I've put out, again, remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I will catch you all next time.